Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Awake Illinois live stream. I'm Shannon Adcock, founder of Awake Illinois. It is Thursday, May 7th, 10:10 a.m. So I'm glad we're able to pull this off this morning. Sorry if you saw the dead air. I was getting some water. But I'm glad that you're tuning in this morning, and whatever time and day you watch this, please share it across your social media platforms. I know that this story of the Department of Justice investigating now 36 Illinois schools on gender ideology, sexual orientation, potential opt-out violations, Title IX violations. I know that there are some questions, and hopefully we'll get you some of the answers today. And then if not, we will be sure to get them in the coming days. So again, please share this across your social media. We are currently at Facebook and X and on YouTube. We want people to understand what is happening with this investigation, to get the details, and to, if you are a part of these 36 schools as a parent or a teacher, that you know you have an opportunity to support this investigation. And we're going to delve into this here. But this is actually very welcome news by parents across the state of Illinois, by educators across the state of Illinois, school boards. Many policymakers do not want to be party to this woke insanity of indoctrinating and grooming children on gender ideology, on sexual orientation, and they don't want to violate parental rights. We're seeing some Supreme Court wins that are preserving parental rights increasingly with every year that we move forward in this movement. And so I know that talking to school board members, even those in these school districts that are part of this investigation, legislators, parents, grandparents, we've heard from a lot of grandparents actually. We know that you welcome this, and that through transparency, I think we will see accountability, and hopefully even more of the tide will continue to turn here in Illinois. And Awake Illinois is on deck to support this investigation, to support any parent in any school district, even if they're not part of this investigation. We will be compiling any information you send, even outside of the portal that I'm going to get into, and provide it to the Department of Justice. So let's just get into what this is all about. And if you have questions, we will be checking the comments. But basically, let me actually show you the Department of Justice press release. So they issued this on April 30th, titled "Justice Department Launches Investigations Concerning Gender Ideology in Pre-K through 12 Schools." Yes, this does start as young as pre-K. I'll show some examples of that in a minute. With these 36 Illinois school districts. So the release says today the Justice Department Civil Rights Division launched investigations into 36 Illinois public school districts to determine whether they have included sexual orientation and gender ideology, otherwise known as the acronym SOGI, content in any class for grades pre-K through 12. If they are teaching SOGI-related content, the investigations will examine whether the schools have notified parents of their right to opt their children out of such instruction. The investigation will also assess whether the Illinois school districts limit access to single-sex intimate spaces, such as bathrooms and locker rooms, and girls' sports teams based on biological sex. This quote from Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon of the Justice Department Civil Rights Division says, quote, "This Department of Justice is determined to put an end to local school authorities keeping parents in the dark about how sexuality and gender ideology are being pushed in classrooms." She goes on to say, quote, "Supreme Court precedent leaves no doubt. Parents have the fundamental right and primary authority to direct the care, upbringing, and education of their children. This includes exempting their children from ideological instruction that contradicts their values or decisions about their children's health and best interests." This press release goes on to show that the investigations will examine whether these Illinois school districts, which are recipients of hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxpayer funding, are adhering to Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972 and the Supreme Court's extensive precedents on parental rights, as recently reiterated in Mirabelli v. Bonta and Mahmoud v. Taylor. Those are the two Supreme Court cases that have preserved opt-out and parental rights. And I'll get into the opt-out forms that we have. We have one that includes these Supreme Court case precedents that parents can send to the schools. It's really important to have your parental rights on record because schools know this. If they are to violate them, they are subject to litigation, and they don't want that. So the Civil Rights Division has not reached any conclusions about the subject matter of the investigations. This is very new, but they go on here to show these Illinois school districts under investigation. So you can see the list there. We have shown it at our social media, at our website. We're going to talk about the portal that we've launched, but these are the schools under investigation. And I think it's important to note that several people from these school districts, whether it's parents, school board members, state legislators in these districts, the initial reaction was one of fear. They're scared. They don't, many of them don't understand why this is happening. And I'll speak to why we think that this particular cluster was targeted based on a particular grant they received. But the initial reaction was that they don't want to be complicit in these violations, and they're hopeful that they haven't been, but they're nervous. And I think that is really a testimony to the fact that even schools that are otherwise not really big or in super woke, wealthy, liberal areas, they're sort of alarmed by this. But the reality is, for any of us in the parental rights movement these last 5 years, we know that this agenda is equal opportunity. It's not just in Chicago public schools. We assert that it is systemic statewide, whether it is Title IX violations or the sexual orientation lessons, the gender ideology. And once radical comprehensive sex ed made its way to Illinois and became this egregious effort, and they attempted to normalize it, we know it's not normal. No adult should be eager to talk to children in kindergarten about transgenderism, but that was ushered in. And I know a lot of parents have increasingly been opting out. More and more school districts have been trying to step away from it, but that doesn't mean it's still not happening. We know that parents have been told that when they've submitted opt-outs, that they would have to homeschool, or that they would kind of be nitpicky about which lessons parents could opt out of radical, sex ed, et cetera. And so we know that these infractions have happened. And so when we look at these schools, again, I know there are a lot of parents that are outside of this network of 36 schools that are like, wait, hold up, I have receipts. We understand and we will take them. But when it comes to why these 36 schools may have been chosen, I was talking with my friends here in the state and sharing that some of the school or contacts within these schools were theorizing that it had to do with a particular federal grant that they received. And as it turns out, my friend Marcia McCleary, when we were talking about this, she actually did look into it, and they posted this at Moms for Liberty Lake County on X. You've been asking how the Illinois school districts were chosen for the DOJ investigation. While we haven't seen anything from the DOJ specifically to this point, notable is that the overlap between the recent years of SVPP grant recipients is 100%. So SVP stands for School Violence Prevention. So that's the particular grant that may have triggered this particular investigation. And as they said, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars that would have been received by these schools. So that seems to be one of the criterion right now. I understand, again, there are much bigger school districts with these infractions. I know, I understand that. The good news in this particular effort by the Department of Justice is that some accountability in the state of Illinois is better than no accountability. We have been waiting for air cover from this administration for quite some time. Awake Illinois has done pretty much everything within our power to try and offer whatever support we can to see transparency and accountability and ethics restored in Illinois. And this is one of the first real wins to get it. Because right now we have a contact with the Department of Justice who greenlit our offer to compile these receipts and deliver them, to organize them, to sort them, and provide them and help with this investigation. So this is not just we'll see who gets this or will it get to the Department of Justice. No, we have a direct contact with the Department of Justice to submit these receipts. So again, I know there are a lot of people wondering about this. How do we help people who are not in the 36 schools? You can still email us any documentation you have. But for now, what I want you to understand is that Awake Illinois, with this portal, is giving parents and teachers an opportunity to provide the documentation that the Department of Justice could use in this investigation. So this can be anonymous. You do not need to share personal information, but this is just going to be an easy way for our team to compile and sort the information by district, to vet it, to filter out something that may not be, strong enough documentation. We'll tell you which type of documentation we're talking about. But you can choose your school here of the 36 that are being investigated. We just asked if you're a district parent or an educator. And then there are different file types that you can upload. So it could be a document file, PDF. It could be an image file, a snapshot. It could be a video file, for example, like an educator slideshow lesson or something. So you can submit that to us, and we will again get it to the Department of Justice. So what would you submit to this portal if you are wanting to submit any of this evidence? It can't be, for example, just relaying that you had a phone conversation with a principal or a teacher. That's not going to be enough for our purposes. So what we're looking for are tangible materials that can directly be linked to the school district. So what would that look like? That could be lesson plans. That could be classroom handouts. It could be emails. It could be training slides, videos, or images. Any policies that are written on sexual orientation and gender ideology, again, SOGI for short. Any other evidence of sexual orientation and gender identity instruction without parental notification. That is a pretty big one. I think most districts usually do alert parents in some fashion with the big stuff. Maybe it's buried in a SMORE newsletter or something where parents can dismiss it easily and then they're kind of caught unaware. But the district can at least say, well, they covered their butts and let you know in some fashion, however many times they said that they would. But we have seen in certain districts, and I can show an example, where teachers have gone rogue and they've done their own clubs during the school day, their own handouts, their own lesson plan that is not officially approved by the district, that was not made known to the parents to even understand it or opt out. And so that secrecy agenda is very much happening in K through 12 schools in Illinois. And so those receipts are going to be pretty powerful. And again, any of those receipts can be relayed anonymously through our portal. But any of these policies that are overriding right now biological sex protections, otherwise known as Title IX, where, for example, males are allowed into female bathrooms or private spaces or sports teams. Awake Illinois and other groups across the state have been very active on this issue. There are even some federal court cases pending right now to ensure that these policies are enacted at schools to protect Title IX. So all of these materials from any of these 36 schools, please send to us at awakeil.com/DOJ. This is going to be a way to ensure, again, transparency and accountability, because when any school in the country takes federal funding, they more or less engage in a contract with the federal government. And in Illinois, a lot of our municipalities do not do zero-up budgeting, and they overspend. They spend it on BS, DEI, and woke stuff and all this sexual content. And they're over-leveraged. They have financial gaps they can't make. So they turn to the federal government for certain grants. And there's a contract of terms where they are expected to abide. And this is one of them. The school violence prevention grant is a federal contract with the government. And if you're in violation of federal protections, for example, Title IX protections of students, you're going to get audited. And this is where we are. So this is more or less an audit. I don't think schools are used to this. I don't. I think that they are, especially in Illinois, just used to having cover from Pritzker, who, by the way, has said that this investigation is a sham. Same with Dick Durbin. That's all they can say, because they know they lose on this issue. This is a very unifying issue to protect children from the radical indoctrination known as gender ideology, from radical sexual education lessons, and certainly from this notion that you're going to keep any of this agenda secret from parents, not notify them, and not give them opt out. And of course, the Title IX stuff is like a 99-1 issue. People do not want boys in their girls' bathrooms. They don't want their daughters crying on the track field. They don't want their daughters to miss out on the fair and equal opportunity to play on a sports team within their own sex. So these are very unifying issues. And again, if your school has zero documentation of this and you are for sure standing in the gap and not allowing this, then you shouldn't have anything to worry about. This should be pretty easy peasy. But I do know there are receipts out there. And this is, again, one of the first real exciting and positive efforts to help Illinois on these issues. So we welcome it. We welcome your documentation to be submitted to this portal. If you have issues with the portal, you can always email us at info@awakeil.com. And this is all at the website there, awakeil.com/DOJ. So if you have any questions as I'm going through this, feel free to put them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer. And if I don't have an answer yet, I will work on getting it to you. So what to submit to the portal? Went over that. Here's the question we're hearing a lot. A lot of us in our communities who are trying to support parents and see all of this stuff just taken out of our schools. What if my school isn't on the list, but we have documented evidence? You can email anything to us at our email address that's shown here, info@awakeil.com, and we will provide it to the Department of Justice. For now, the portal is focused on those 36 schools. But if you have something, we're going to compile and organize all of it. We're going to make sure that they see all of the Title IX violations that, the complaints that we've submitted against Naperville 203, against Valley View School District 365. Those schools have not made any effort to remedy their Title IX policies. And they take federal funding. We know this is happening in Deerfield. We know this is happening so many places across the state. We know. And so if you're not part of this initial investigation so far of these 36 schools, send us anything you have and we will make sure it gets in the full report to the Department of Justice. And again, I reiterate, we have a direct contact with the DOJ. They know we're going to be supplying this information. The portal is anonymous. Let's help them give air cover to Illinois so we can really start seeing, again, transparency and accountability and the tide shift here in Illinois on these issues. So send us anything, send us by email, reach out to us with any questions. So I'm going to get into some examples of what these materials could look like. SOGI, sexual orientation, gender identity. It's happening in a lot of schools. And they bring it in through the comprehensive sexual education, which we have covered for quite some time. The state passed into law that if you teach comprehensive sexual education, you have to use the National Sex Ed Standards, which sounds very accredited and very noble. Those were developed by woke sexual left advocates. That's it. It's the whole social justice programming, all of the woke stuff. And not every school has adopted it. It just takes one teacher to usher it in secretly. It could fall on a spectrum. But we know that Chicago Public Schools is all in on this. They always have been. 300,000 kids in the school. They just did these May Day protests, had these kids marching out for communism. It's total insanity. And unfortunately, CPS is always held up as this case study in like how bad things can get. And I feel really badly for these kids. I know there are some outlier schools in CPS that have somehow stood in the gap. God bless you. Usually it's areas where you got a lot of cops and firemen who aren't going to put up with that for their kids. But there are many, many children being exposed to really radical insanity in CPS. We've known it for a while, and tax dollars are funding it, and they're getting federal grants too. So will the hammer come down on CPS? That would be great. Maybe they're waiting for a certain time. I don't know. I can't speak to that yet. But we do have documentation, and I actually received some training materials that these teachers use. They get them in training slides. Pre-K through 12 teachers have to review these materials. It's not just 9th through 12th grade. Not that it's even stupid that it's in the high schools, but as young as preschool. So this is an instructor guide slide or page from this PDF that they use, the gender unicorn. I know many of you are familiar with this. It's total indoctrination and grooming with the cute little unicorn expressing gender identity. You can see their other genders besides female, woman, girl, male, man, boy, gender expression, presentation, feminine, masculine, other, sex assigned at birth, female, male, other, intersex, sexually attracted to women, men, other genders, romantically, emotionally attracted to women, men, other genders. So this could be given to young pre-K, first grade, second grade. They say introduce grades 3 through 12. I'm not buying it. I think that this is coming in earlier and earlier and earlier. So this is one example of, for example, internal instructor materials that you could upload in the portal if you're in any school district. But for the portal, the 36 schools is what we're offering. You can email us anything else beyond the 36 schools. Again, Chicago Public Schools, this is from the instructor guide. Healthy Chicago Public Schools is the header of this particular one. Office of Student Health and Wellness. Gender identity, they say someone's internal sense of being male, female, neither or both. Everyone gets to decide their gender identity for themselves, and you cannot tell someone's gender identity just by looking at them. Examples: man, woman, genderqueer, non-binary. Gender expression, someone's external presentation of their gender or how someone shows their gender to the world. Someone may express themselves through the clothes they wear, how they wear their hair, voice, accessories, makeup, etc. Importantly, we cannot assume someone's gender identity based on their gender presentation because sometimes people's identity does not allow with how they present on the outside. Also, it is not necessary to note that students might not have the ability to choose their clothing, haircut, or freedom to express themselves fully, so we should not make assumptions about their gender based on their expression. Sex assigned at birth, the label the medical community gives someone when they are born, usually based on the appearance of external genitalia. If someone's sex assigned at birth and gender identity align are the same, they are cisgender. If someone's sex assigned at birth and gender identity differ, they may be transgender. I mean, you guys can go through all of this yourselves. We'll put all the links to it. It's exhausting. And this is just a totally normal concept of health within Chicago Public Schools. The gender identity and sexual orientation, SOGI, is well developed in Chicago Public Schools. Educators have to do these trainings, again, pre-K through 12. It's total insanity. I don't know what else you want me to tell you, but this is happening, and parents do have opt-out rights. Are they being honored? I don't know, but you guys just need to see, like, they're not trying to hide it. It's fully shown in their instruction materials. So if you have documents like this pertaining to the 36 schools, to these 36 schools here, hold on, let me go back to those. Any documentation coming out of these 36 schools, from Atwood Heights School District 125 down to Will County School District 92 and everywhere in between. These are the types of things that you can submit. So let's move on here. More Chicago Public Schools instructor guide. Use gender-inclusive language when talking about anatomy and physiology. Gender-inclusive health education will convey the important physiological terms and definitions students must grasp without assigning or assuming genders. Remove gender from anatomical and physiological terms. Instead of saying the boy's or woman's blank, you may say their blank or the blank. For younger students pre-K through 2 who have not yet learned the difference between gender identity and sex assigned at birth, good Lord. An inclusive way to talk about bodies is to teach the anatomy of most boys and most girls. The language of some and most acknowledges that we cannot assume how everyone's body works. Cisnormativity is when people think that everyone's gender identity matches their sex assigned at birth, and it denies the existence of transgender people. Okay, well, there you go. This is from an instructor slide at Chicago Public Schools, just another example of materials you could submit. Grades pre-K through 2 at Healthy Chicago Public Schools. Defining gender, gender roles, and gender stereotypes. This is the focus for pre-K through 2. Total gender ideology and indoctrination starting in pre-K through 2nd grade. It's right there. SOGI is right there. It's right there in Chicago Public Schools. This is happening in a lot of schools across the state, across the country. If you're taking federal grants, you can't be doing this. That's really the moral of the story. You can't be doing this. I'll come back to that in a minute. Let me go back again to this list and I'll populate it here and I'm going to check for any questions. No questions yet. So let's go to the forms that we have. I want you to see these. These forms are this page, awakeil.com/forms. This is one of our most popular pages of our website. It has a very high visit count for good reason. We have updated these throughout the years to be current with the latest federal protections, et cetera, the latest awareness and advocacy focus. So there is a 4-page PDF you can download when you click this link, download the PDF set of printable forms. We did in the spring add the March 2026 Supreme Court ruling template. That's this one here. But we have the mental health screening opt-out. We've covered the mental health agenda for a long time. I'm going to come back to the school-based health clinics out of CPS in a minute. That's going to be part of that. I know a lot of you are very worried about that. You don't want your child to, unbeknownst to you, they could have this one-on-one counseling sessions, several, up to 8, without you knowing about it within the school day. This is an opt-out form we've provided to you. Liberty Counsel form. This could pertain to opting out of sex ed, sexuality clubs, sexuality discussions, Planned Parenthood, and other activist initiatives agendas. This is the newer one that mentions the Supreme Court ruling Mirabelli. You can take a look at this, but again, we're trying to keep it current for you so that you have the most legal protection on your side as a parent. If you do not assert your parental rights on record, if your child is in a pre-K through 12 school, they are likely going to be violated and you won't even know it. When you stand in the gap, that sends a message that you know your parental rights and that your child has intentional parents who know their values and will stand by them. I would argue that's not most children in the state of Illinois right now, or probably really anywhere. So this is a way for us to offer advocacy empowerment to you. Yes, the Department of Justice is doing this investigation. That's great. We can support them. But what are you doing in the meanwhile? This should really be step number 1. Is submitting the forms. Let anyone entrusted with your child know that you are an intentional parent who is paying attention and you know your rights. And if they're violated, the good news is that now, 5 years after starting Awake Illinois, we have some wonderful pro bono law firms that would be willing to support any case where parents' rights are being violated. So take advantage of these tools. This is very easy to do. This is not a combative step. This is a very respectful and peaceful step to stand in the gap for your child. So use these forms. It's so, so important. This should be step number 1. This should really be step number 1. And then we have another opt-out from Courage as a Habit. It affirms that you don't consent to school-based surveys or questionnaires or any other number of topics without express parental permission. So use these forms. I don't care what happens with the DOJ investigation. I don't care if you're in a perceived super conservative, not woke area. Always have your parental rights on record. Every parent should be doing this in the state of Illinois if you do not want your child to be groomed and indoctrinated on gender ideology and sexual orientation. That's just really what it comes down to. So I'm going to go over here back to our slides. I want you to see we're going to do another separate live stream on the Chicago Public Schools, training materials and all the stuff that we've downloaded. But these school-based health centers, I just want you to know, I think they said, how many are there? 32. So these school-based health centers, according to them, provide students with healthcare services in the school building. So this is part of the WISC model, the whole school, whole community, whole child model. Kelly Shinkowski out of California has covered this extensively. This is the effort to replace the mom and the dad. You're not going to take them to the doctor. The government will become the doctor. You're not going to take them to Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood will come to your child at the school. You're not paying attention to what's happening with your child. We're going to have them sit in front of a woke counselor that's been contracted by the school. And any number of, who knows what perceived medical practices are happening. But let's just see what they say here. So Chicago Public Schools partners with community health organizations to manage 32 school-based health centers throughout Chicago that provide quality, accessible, and age-appropriate health care. Age-appropriate. They're talking to kids about gender ideology and transgenderism in pre-K. So we know that there's no concept of age-appropriateness here in Chicago Public Schools. To both elementary and high school students. Some school-based health centers are available to the community and to neighboring schools as well. Services offered include, but are not limited to, immunizations, physical exams, sports physicals, behavioral health care, chronic condition management, and acute care. These are where they are in Chicago. All these schools here: Edmondson High School, Beethoven, Carver Military High School, Chicago Vocational, Clemente, Crane Medical, Davis, Drake, Dunbar, Englewood STEM, Farragut High School, Gale, Hibbard, Johnson, Juarez High School, Kilmer, Lakeview High School, Marine Leadership at Ames High School, Marquette, National Teachers, Noble, Orozco, Orr, Phillips, Roosevelt, Senn, Simpson, Social Justice High School. Lord. Steinmetz, Sullivan, and Ward. So these are all places of school-based, quote, health centers. They could get chest binders. Lurie Children's could come in and talk to them about gender ideology, about medicalization. Planned Parenthood could come in and talk about abortion. This is what happens when children are totally ceded to government, I assert, and government becomes the mom and the dad. I just want you guys to know this. Everybody says, no, there's no way. There's no way that's happening. There's no way that they're talking to preschoolers or elementary kids about gender. Yes, they are. It's right here. So many more documents of what they are talking to children about. I already posted when I first showed this on social media a couple days ago about the condoms that they're giving out. I mean, I want you to just see what's going on. And I want you to see examples of the documentation that you can submit at our portal. So again, we're coming back to the Department of Justice has launched an investigation in Illinois. We welcome this. We celebrate it. Would we love if they were flying in and holding a press conference outside of Chicago Public Schools and saying they're going to investigate that? 100%. I think we would all celebrate that. But there is a strategy at play here. These 36 schools were receiving federal grants from the School Violence Prevention Grant Program. And we know that there are some violations that have happened at some of these schools. In fact, I mentioned this earlier. Let me pull up one of the examples of this. Out of Oregon, Illinois. So Oregon, Illinois is one of the schools listed. I've talked to parents here. It does sound like this current superintendent is trying. It sounds like it. I have to take some of these parents at what they've relayed. But after we exposed through a parent's diligence and parents that were involved in this unfortunate incident that happened in February, or that was happening 2022 to 2023, but we exposed it February of 2023. They were having a secret school lunch club focused on gender identity and sexual orientation, sexuality. So this was happening with a 5th grade teacher who did not inform parents that she was going to be bringing these girls into her classroom to discuss all manner of LGBTQ topics. Even resisting the patriarchy came into that. This was one of the coloring pages that she had. I mean, this is like woke encapsulated. You have the social justice fist, pride, the imagery there of what looks to be, I don't know, people experimenting. I don't know. It's weird. But parents didn't know. They didn't know about it. They didn't give permission for this to be in front of their children. And so if you read the blog post here, elementary school parents were alerted to this coloring page. It was traced to a secret LGBTQ lunch club coordinated by 5th grade teacher Miss Elizabeth Gonkars, who is still employed in the district. As early as October of 2022, these secret lunch meetings were held in her classroom and grew to 40 students in 5th and 6th grades. School district administrators intervened to halt these lunch meetings after parents voiced their concerns. No parents or guardians were notified, nor was permission granted for their children to attend segregated lunch meetings. Miss Elizabeth Gonkars referred to these secret lunch meetings as a safe space in her February 8th, 2023 email communication with school staff. According to Gonkars' email, quote, "The lunch meeting started as a place for students who feel like they are not accepted and want to find a group who supports them. These are students who are questioning their identity as gender or orientation." 40 to 50 kids, according to her, were questioning. She took it upon herself to override parents and effectively, and she was basically grooming them. That's what I would assert. This was total groomer behavior. You can see the email communications. What's unfortunate is there were parents who started to see a change in these girls over those months, and it wasn't for the better. Some of these girls became very withdrawn. One of the girls had been very close to her dad, and with all this concept of patriarchy and, let's face it, anti-male, it was becoming clear that these girls were regressing. They were regressing because they were being groomed. And the parents could not figure out why. They had no idea these concepts were being presented to their daughters during lunch. During lunch, when these kids should be able to be together, socializing among themselves as peers, this teacher took it upon herself to take them secretly into this room and expose them to all this nonsense. This is just one teacher in Oregon, Illinois school district. Now, did they remedy it fully? I don't know, but they were one of the schools to receive this grant. And this happened in 2023, around the time they might have been getting that federal grant. I believe this teacher should have been fired. I think she is a red flag groomer and she should have been fired. I don't know why these are difficult concepts. That should be one of the remedies when they get audited and they're taking federal money and you have teachers doing this. No, hard pass. So I give a lot of props to the parents who outed this, who advocated accordingly for their kids. And now they're one of the schools that are involved in this audit. This stuff is happening. Oregon, Illinois is not a big community. It's not a Chicago Public Schools super woke community. It just takes one teacher to go rogue. And we know these things are happening all over the place. So it needs to stop. And I think that this investigation is one excellent way to get air cover and finally getting accountability in the super woke state of Illinois. So I'm optimistic. I think that these receipts are going to help. It will force schools to be transparent and to develop new policies. And really the warning shot right now to every school district superintendent and weak school boards. Most of them are weak. I know there are a few good ones. I could probably count on one hand how many good ones there are that actually work with us and work with parents. The warning shot is y'all better get ahead of this right now. Like, get ahead of it now. The Department of Justice isn't playing. This is step one. And I speculate they're working in districts that will be more likely to be compliant. I think if they went straight for Chicago Public Schools, I mean, they just had May Day. Chicago public schools would probably take all the kids out and start burning the city down. I mean, who knows what ridiculousness they would do. But the schools on this list, they're pretty chill from what I can tell. Again, many of them seem kind of scared. I think that's good. You shouldn't want to challenge the Department of Justice for violations if that's what's happening. If you're good and you haven't done any of this stuff, then you should be fine. Be transparent with parents about this. Respect the opt-out forms. When a parent submits opt-out forms, ours or anybody else, respect them. This isn't difficult. But when you have teachers taking children into their classroom and keeping that secret from parents, I mean, I haven't even gotten into the gender support plan stuff yet. The gender support plans are secret documents where schools can direct children or follow children down this path without parents knowing. And that can go pretty far, especially when you have those school-based health centers in Chicago public schools that could have Lurie Children's Hospital coming in there and saying, well, they have a gender support plan. Maybe we can talk to them about puberty blockers. I mean, this is not hyperbole. This is happening. We have receipts. And I'm grateful that Harmeet Dillon and her team at the Department of Justice is taking this seriously. So this is step one. Head to our website, which again, I will show here, awakeil.com/DOJ. Use this portal. If you are in one of the 36 Illinois schools, let's expedite this. Let's figure this out and do better going forward. That's really what it comes down to. I don't want to see schools lose funding. But if that is the pulse point that will shift change to ethics on these issues, then that's really what's being dangled over their head. And if you do right by the contract with the federal government and you're not doing any of these transgressions, you should be fine. It's really not complicated, but these schools are not used to getting audited. They're just not used to getting audited. And it shows, but hopefully most of these schools are okay. But we know there are receipts and we want you guys to send them to us. And we will again be supplying these directly to the Department of Justice. Let me go back to what those documents could look like. So you can upload lesson plans, classroom handouts, emails, training slides, videos, images, policies on sexual orientation and gender identity, any other evidence of sexual orientation and gender identity instruction without parent notification or your opt-out was denied. Policies that override biological sex protections, such as males allowed into female bathrooms or private spaces or sports teams. Submit at awakeil.com/DOJ. If you are not one of those 36 schools, again, I come back to, you can email our team anything from your school district to the email info@awakeil.com, and we will make sure it all gets provided in the reports that we will be continually submitting to the Department of Justice. I reiterate again, we have a direct contact with the department. They have greenlit our offer to compile all of this and to send it to them. So this is the first time, again, our organization is getting some pretty good welcome assistance on these issues. This is a big deal. We know that you have relied on us when it comes to these issues. We are committed to helping you. We are committed to seeing transparency and accountability with your tax dollars, with your children's bodies, your souls. This is a good step. So we celebrate it. Again, head to awakeil.com/DOJ. If you have any questions, feel free to send them to us. We will be providing pretty regular updates on this. This is going to pretty much encapsulate every weekly live stream going forward. We want you to know what's happening. We want to answer your questions. That's what we're here for. So please share this with your contacts, especially if you know people in these schools. Over the years, we have had an increasing amount of educators who are sending us information. They don't want to be complicit in this, and God bless you for that. Even I would say even some liberal teachers, they don't necessarily want to be complicit in this either. So I don't want everybody to look at all of their kids' teachers and assume that they are necessarily nefarious. We increasingly have a lot of teachers that don't want to be complicit in this, that they just don't. So we salute and applaud every administrator, school board member, educator, and parent that that sees, sanity and wants to be part of the sane people who are entrusted with children. Thank you for that. But we know that it just takes one. I showed you that secret lunch club. It just takes one. Now we're at a place where the federal administration is being proactive, and we welcome that. It's about time. It's about time. Illinois is broke. You're taking federal money. Abide by the rules of federal protections of children and knock this stuff off. Knock it off. So if you have any questions, please do again let us know. I'm going to look at the comments here. Any questions before I wrap up? Feel free to put them in the comments. Lisa said, I'm so thankful I don't have kids in school right now. It's a shame. That's a shame that's where people feel they are. But we as parents with children in schools right now are done with this. We as advocates who have been trying to help parents and have watched families that have been hurt by grooming, by indoctrination, we're over it. So I'm thankful for the Department of Justice that they are taking these steps. I'm thankful for advocates who have courage. I'm thankful for people who have been bold and unapologetic. That's what's needed. So as much as some people may be glad their kids are done, one day your grandkids are going to be in these schools. We're doing this for them. I don't know that all these issues are going to be solved by then. They're probably not. This is a long haul effort, but be thankful there are people who are doing very good work. Teresa said, same, I'm glad my kids are done. We're going out to school board meetings and have courage to let them know this is inappropriate and take this out of our schools. We pay their salaries. We, the parents, will control our own kids. I hope you are. But how many parents have submit opt-out forms? How many parents are speaking to school boards? I'm glad that when parents finally have the courage and are willing to speak up, that they get proactive, but more are needed. A lot more are needed. Dave, thank you. You're welcome. Thanks for what you do at Illinois Family Institute, Illinois Family Action. A lot of really good people in the state of Illinois doing good work. This is what we're attempting to do to help you guys right now. So if you know anybody in these schools and they have receipts, they can submit them to us at awakeil.com/DOJ. If you have any questions, you know where to find us. But hopefully this gives you a little bit of a primer as to what is happening with what has made national headlines for Illinois, these 36 schools being under investigation. I know there are bigger fish to fry. I get it. Send us any information you have and we will compile it. But this is a welcome start. It's a huge win for parents in the state. And it's putting everyone in the government K through 12 system on notice that we aren't playing around anymore. And we have more allies in the administration willing to help we, the people. We're here for it. We welcome it. And by the way, if you are so inclined, I normally don't do this, but this is going to be one of our more labor-intensive efforts in a while. We are coming up on our 5-year anniversary. If you remember last year, we thought, maybe we'd be going into other avenues, whether it be politics or other national advocacy avenues. And we have stayed the course with Awake Illinois. We're coming up on 5 years. If you are able to donate, we welcome it. Our team is going to be doing a lot of work on compiling more and more of these receipts, organizing them, sorting them, and delivering them to the Department of Justice. A lot of work to be done. We're still continuing the support of Title IX federal lawsuits. Many of you have been contributing small donations to that effort, and we are, so on deck with all of this stuff. We are not stopping. So if you are able to give a donation, head to awakeil.com, click the donate button. Our team is going to be doing a lot of work on this. So again, thank you so much to all of you for tuning in. Please share this and onward for Illinois. Send us any questions you have. But meanwhile, have a good day. Happy May 7th, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.